started, let me welcome you to the Laity Session for the 2023 Virginia Annual Conference. My name is Martha Stokes. It is an honor and a privilege for me to serve as your conference lay leader and to welcome you to this Laity Session. It seems very appropriate as we get started for this 2023 annual conference season and Laity Session to start with the words of Isaiah chapter 43, verse 19. And I'm reading from the Voice version of the Bible. Hear these words. Listen closely. I'm preparing something new. It's happening now, even as I speak, and you're about to see it. I'm preparing a way through the desert. Waters will flow where there had been none. So watch closely. I'm preparing something new. It's happening now, even as we speak, even as we gather together. So once again, let me welcome you and let me share with everyone that's gathered now the fact that we are using this as a Zoom webinar platform. So you will be able to see the speakers. Hopefully you can hear all of us well. And if you want to share or raise a question, please put that in the Q&A function in the Zoom webinar. We are very thankful to have Dwayne Stinson being our host and our monitor for all of those questions. And so we will try to recognize any of those as they come through and we have time to answer them. So over the last few weeks, I've gotten a number of the same questions from folks, two questions really, so I want to share those right up front. The first question is, what is a laity session? And the second question has been, why aren't we doing it in person in Roanoke when we gather together this week? Well, the laity session is an opportunity to connect with other Virginia United Methodist lay people and to hear some of the ways that laity are making a difference in congregations across the Virginia Conference and in our community. If there were topics or if there were activities that we needed to care for in person, we would have found time in the schedule during the annual conference session in Roanoke to be able to do that. That would probably this year, with the change in schedule, have required everyone either to come in on Wednesday or to take our Friday night time to be able to gather together. So this year we're trying this virtually since, again, we don't have anything we have to vote on or any topics that are necessary for us to care for before the actual business session of the annual conference begins. While only lay members of this year's annual conference receive the Zoom link for this session, all laity across the conference are able to participate. And so we will have this recording of the laity session up on the conference website tomorrow, hopefully tomorrow morning, so that anyone can be able to watch and hear the speakers from today. I want to thank everyone too, as we get started, for the inspiration and the planning team members from the Board of Laity who helped to give shape to today's laity session and to the laity heart-to-heart that will be held on Thursday morning. Karen McElfish, the Northern Virginia District Lay Leader, Eileen Friedrich, one of the Regional Associate District Lay Leaders for Northern Virginia, Richard Spears, Conference Director of Lay Servant Ministries, Bill and Linda Steed, Associate District Lay Leaders of the Three Knots District, and John Maywison from the Northern Virginia District as one of the Associate Lay Leaders too. So thank you to that group in particular that helped to, again, give vision for these two sessions. So we've already given the reminder that you'll be able to see the speakers, but you won't see yourself. And if you want to put a question or a comment, please use the Q&A function that's on the Zoom meeting menu to be able to do that. Now, as we begin our time together this afternoon, I want to introduce you to Betty Carlson from Mount Olivet United Methodist Church in Arlington on the Northern Virginia District. Betty is going to offer an opening prayer for us, and I want us all to catch Betty's spirit. So let us be in a spirit of prayer.
I lost Betty for a second. Give me a second to get back to her.
Okay. This gives us a time to enter into a prayerful attitude as we bring Betty's beautiful face up before us.
Let us pray. New every day is your love, great God of light, and all day long you are working for good in the world. Stir up in us to desire to serve you, to live peacefully with our neighbors, and to devote each day to your Son, our Savior, Jesus Christ the Lord. Amen.
Now, while we can't see everybody, I hope you're smiling, just like Betty was there at the end of that prayer, and that we took those words to heart and take those words to heart as we think about our annual conference session together. Now, as we begin a Laity Session, we also need to sing. We also need to focus on music. And since we're not together in a way we can do that today, we want to share with you a little bit of one of the videos from our annual conference preview and orientation, which will also introduce you to the music team that's going to be leading us in annual conference when we gather together on Thursday. So here's a video.
Hello, Virginia Annual Conference. My name is Drew Wilson, and I'm joined here with my good friend Jim Bennett. We are really excited. We're going to be helping to lead music at Annual Conference in Roanoke this June. We're so thrilled at the opportunity. We're going to be joined with some dear friends of ours, Ephraim Woolfolk Jr. on the bass, and Sharon Woolfolk will be joining us on the viola, I believe. Is that right? On the viola. Correct, yes. And Jeff Rothman will be joining us on the drums, and the Reverend Josette Franklin, whom you may know from the installation service of our new bishop. She led the choir. She'll be joining us as well in June. We're going to play a couple of tunes for you just to have some fun. Hope you enjoy.
Martha, you're muted.
Thank you, Dwayne. I thought I was being really careful to hit that button. So we still all do it, don't we? So now we've got something to look forward to as we think about the music leadership for this week at our annual conference session. This video is actually one of a series that we created this year to help prepare everyone, especially our lay members, for our annual conference. It is part of the responsibility of the Conference Board of Laity to provide for training for lay members in anticipation of our time of celebrating our connection together at annual conference. And so for many years, we've done that through our district orientation sessions and the Laity Session at annual conference. This year, we tried to take on that by video. So I hope you've taken time to watch those videos. If not, you can still go to the annual conference section of the vaumc.org website and find them all there, from the introduction that Bishop Sue provided for us, through some discussion about conference rules and Robert's Rules of Order that I know you all want to pay attention to. Now, I've recognized that we have not been as creative as some other annual conferences from videos I've seen. So next year we'll have to work on that and see how we can maybe rap about conference rules and Robert's Rules of Order like the North Carolina conference did along the way today. So again, those videos are at vaumc.org/AC2023. I hope you've taken time already as well to read the book of reports and prepare for the actions and reports that will be a part of the annual conference session. You can find the agenda, of course, at the beginning of the book of reports on pages 5 through 7. Please familiarize yourself with when the sessions begin and end. Also recognize that if you are planning to leave the Berglund Center for lunch, give yourself time to get back and get parked so that you're there in time for the afternoon session to start. The responsibilities of lay members are on page 2 of the book of reports. Again, you can watch the video or you can go back and look at page 2 for those responsibilities, which do include reporting back to your church after the annual conference session is complete. This is a time at annual conference to celebrate our connection as United Methodists. So when you're there, take the opportunity to greet people, especially those that you may not know, to offer a smile to everyone. And please, please, please remember that you are representatives of the United Methodist Church when you are out and about in Roanoke. So when you're at the restaurants, when you're at the hotel, remember whose you are and that we are representing the church together. One thing on the agenda I want to make sure that you are aware of, and that is that we will close this year's annual conference with a service of celebration of call and ordering of ministry, along with the fixing of appointments. This will be the first time that the call of the laity has been recognized as a part of that service, and I want you all to be there. So I hope you've planned to stay through Saturday. The commissioning of a deaconess will happen during that time, as well as a recognition of our 2023 class of lay supply pastors and certified ministers. All ways that we can serve as laity in the life of the denomination. And if those titles are new for you today, I invite you to go to the Discipleship Ministries website or to the website for the United Women in Faith and find out what lay servant, lay supply, certified lay minister, and deaconess and home missioners are all about. So we'll share a few more reminders at the end of the session, but I want to make sure we give time for those who are joining us to talk about where we are in the life of the church, about the hope for the future and the call of the laity. So in particular, I'm really excited to introduce David Teal to this group. And if you're curious, right now we've got 415 people on the webinar. So really good response today. So David is Director of Laity and Spiritual Leadership with Discipleship Ministries. He is writer, editor, communicator, Christian educator, among other things, living in Nashville, Tennessee. He studied at Vanderbilt Divinity School and has been working in our United Methodist churches and in the connection of our denomination since 1997. I know that David has a deep personal faith and a spiritual passion for helping leaders and learners. Many of us have had the wonderful opportunity to experience David's leadership directly through lay servant ministry, but he's a tremendous resource for all of us in the local church. And so I am so honored that David is able to join us today to share a little bit with us about the call of the laity, especially in this time of renewal and change. So David, thank you.
Martha, thank you so much. It's so good to be here. As Martha said, my name is David Teal. I'm the Director of Laity and Leadership at Discipleship Ministries. I also bring greetings to you today from our General Secretary, Reverend Jeff Campbell. I want to say greetings to your Bishop, Bishop Sue Hoppert Johnson, and all the clergy and laity serving under her leadership. Special greetings as well to your conference lay leader, Martha Stokes, and your LSM Director, Richard Spears, also to Associate Director, Tiana Turbin, and the rest of your Board of Laity. We so appreciate all that you're doing in Virginia. And I want to say I really appreciate your conference identity as connected people of God and your conference theme of united as one in mission, at your best as you mission and minister together. We're gonna do the magic of screen sharing, and in theory, it'll work just great, and that's what I expect. But I've been known to do it not great. So today we'll see how it goes, but looks like all the tech's working. If everybody can see that, I guess you can give feedback and say, yeah, we can see what you're doing. I wanted to say that everywhere I go, every time I do laity training, I always do this prayer. And if you'll pray with me, I'll show you the hand motions and then we'll do it together. And it comes from my VBS days as a Christian educator in Methodist churches. And it goes something like this. Jesus, help me here, and I point to the ground beneath my feet. Jesus, help me here. I pull my ears out like a Buick with the doors open, maybe 1956 Buick. Jesus, help me heal, and that's cross arms across your chest. I want to get that right. And then Jesus, help me help with hands extended. So we're going to try it together. Jesus, help me here. Jesus, help me here. Jesus, help me heal. Jesus, help me help. Because near and here to help is one meaning of Emmanuel, God with us. Amen. Well, as you may know, our mission at Discipleship Ministries is on the screen, right? We're here to help you help. We are here to help you equip leaders who make disciples of Jesus. And so our method is actually spelled out in the Book of Discipline in paragraph 11:16. And I know parts of the Book of Discipline are a cure for insomnia, but there are parts I really like. And this is one. Through distributing through the church and interpreting through the church with you all the rich meanings of the priesthood of believers, Christian vocation, and the ministry of the laity in daily life. And that's what we do. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention today just some basic things about some of the resources we offer right now that can help you. We believe that I know I'm in Martha's area when I start talking about care ministry, but we believe that our calling in Jesus as disciples is a calling to care, and that care is our witness. Bishop Ken Carter has written some reflections, like a 2-pager on discipleship and care in this new booklet called Discipleship as Care. And born out of his own life and time caring for his wife, Linda, when she had dementia, he's thinking about what it means to be a community of disciples whose pattern for life is to be caring community that learns how to both share and receive grace. And so I hope you'll check that out. Now, this morning, I've got all my slides, and we're not going to go through them all because there's too many. And also, I find that I like to sit down the morning before I'm talking to folks and just say, what do I really hope they walk away with? And later, if any of you are interested in any of these slides, I'll give a link to Martha. I'm not expecting you to all want the slides, but if you see something on the screen. So this morning with a pencil, I just sat down and I said, wow, this is what I hope they know already and what I hope they get out of their time together today, but also as you gather as laity at annual conference. And so the big ideas, right, are that you are called to care and to witness, to become all love, which means loving all, that you also know that you're called to grow together in grace, the next quadrennium's Laity Sunday themes were voted on by the Association of Annual Conference Lay Leaders back in April. And the next quadrenniums focuses on Ephesians chapter 3, verses 14 through 21. And the theme across that 4 years is going to be Together by Grace. So I hope that you have a deeper and richer understanding of what it means to be together by grace. I'm not going to say much about full affiliation, except to say that our clergy brothers and sisters describe their connective life as elders in full connection, right? And so I want to encourage you to think of yourselves as fully affiliating, fully children of the same family, and that your calling is a vocation to be set together, right? Not set apart, but set together for the life of the world. Then I hope you see grace at work in every life. I think that the gift of laity is that they're actually in the places where other people are already being touched by God's prevenient grace. Thank you, John Wesley, for that idea. Also, I hope that you catch a vision for what it means to be ligament leaders. I spent a big portion of last year reading the Gospel of Matthew and the book of Ephesians together. And the book of Ephesians has a wonderful phrase about being ligament leaders, right? We are ligaments. We help bind the people of God together in love. I also hope that you'll catch a vision for beholding God with us, and that God with us means for others as well. And then finally, if there's time for it, I might say something about being acrobats of grace, but it doesn't matter if I do that or not. I do hope you'll go to our website, and if you go there and click on that little learn more, there's a little learn more button, and then you go to this page, there's a red button. You can download all of this year's little booklets and as PDFs. It'll download them as a zip file, and you can open them all. Those are, I want to say those are free, but it's not exactly free. Your apportionment dollars, which we are so grateful for, help to create these kind of resources that are impacting laity and clergy across the church. We have a new resource coming up called Disciples in the Marketplace, and I mentioned that for a reason. That's going to come out in the fall. It's a video-based series focused on laity, describing grace at work, where they go to work, how they do their daily life and work together. And whether that's someone who works in the home, someone who works as an engineer or a police officer, or busses tables at Shoney's, which was my first job when I was 16 years old. So we hope you'll check that out. In a little reflection called Vocation is Grace, the Reverend Will Campbell tells the story of getting a letter that shook him to his core, and it gave him a fresh take on his calling. An old friend reached out to him, and in the letter just casually wrote he had followed Campbell's acrobatics closely over the years. Will froze at the word acrobatics. It was less than a compliment. It was a Southernism like bless your heart, right? The subtext being, why would you waste your time on your abilities with such precarious people and peculiar projects? And so as we think about calling, and I know you're thinking about calling, I'll just say a word about, I led confirmation classes for 15 years in the local church, and we tried to communicate something of the acrobatics of God's calling in the lives of young people, older folks too, but we were working with sixth graders. And I would always tell the sixth graders that the gospel in a nutshell is Emmanuel, or in a bigger nut, 12 words: love is with us, faithful with you to make all things new, or something like that. And there's another nutshell I've been using lately, and that's this one: life is good, something's wrong, someone helps. And that may seem a little generic, but it gets at something that's going on. I know it leaves out a lot. And always push back on people who try to reduce something as beautiful as love divine, all loves excelling, to a nutshell. But I think that Paul and John, and I'm talking about a different Paul and John, got this in a song that we all know and can probably hear in our heads right now. Help is the word for the psalmist that describes both our need and what God delivers. And so as you think about discipleship, and you think about what you're doing, and you think about your calling, I hope that you'll think about this idea that God, the cry of others, your own cries, are a prayer for help, and you are help's prayer answered as well. So anyway, I hope that you'll remember that your call has a place, that your place has a call, and that you should place your call. So wherever God's got you planted, we hope that you're discovering what that means. Also, we hope that you'll remember that being called to be all love is John Wesley's sort of formula. He told Dorothy Furley that this was what he meant by scriptural holiness. I just want you to be all love. And as we discover what it means to be all love, we also discover that all love means all love, right? But also means that all love all. And in the Virginia conference, I already hear stories of all love disciples of Jesus. And so as you prepare for conference this week, I hope that you'll be thinking about some of these things. You'll be considering your own calling, and above all, how you are God's instrument to help a new generation of lay leaders discover their own calling. And so together then, maybe we'll pray, not just help me, but we'll pray. And this time, pray with me, and you can do the gestures again. Jesus, help us here. Jesus, help us here. Jesus, help us heal. And Jesus, help us help. Amen. Thank you so much for letting me join you today.
David, thank you for your words and your call to us. What great reminders we all need to hear and to take to heart in this time for us as lay members of annual conference and lay leaders in our local churches, districts, and on the conference level. So thank you again for being with us. We will certainly pass along the link to the slides because we've already had a couple of people ask for them in the Q&A. So I know there will be folks who will be very interested in that. So, and
David,
remember,
we're still sharing your screen, by the way.
Oh, that's not good. Let me
except
stop.
it's a beautiful piece of stained glass that we're seeing there.
Oh, good. Well, that's actually in a house in North Carolina near the Biltmore House. It's a Tiffany window.
Okay. And we will see it as a reminder of our baptism right now, because to me, it looks like water there at the bottom. And
let's see if it'll let me stop. It doesn't want to let me stop sharing. And I know you're ready for me to stop sharing. So let's see what happens.
we'll let me move ahead as we're working on that. But again, just thank you, David. And we will certainly be calling on you for resources for all of us across the conference, and appreciate you being here today.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you, Dwayne, for the tech support. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Let me introduce Dwayne officially. I said thank you before, but Dwayne Stinson has been the resource for the Board of Laity and other leadership ministers as Associate Director of Influence on the Virginia Conference Connectional Ministry staff. And I say has been because as of July 1st, Dwayne is moving into the position of Director of Connectional Ministries for Discipleship and Congregational Vitality. He and Reverend Dr. Jonathan Page, who will become the Director of Connectional Ministries for Innovation and Creativity, will share that role of Director of Connectional Ministries. And you all may not recognize the excitement there, but what I am so excited about as they enter into that shared position is that it's another example for us as laity of the partnership in ministry between clergy and laity. So we will have Dwayne as a lay director of Connectional Ministries and Jonathan as the clergy half of that partnership in the Connectional Ministries office. And so to me, that's an exciting opportunity for us as we continue to model our partnership in ministry together. Dwayne is going to introduce us to next steps and bridge churches, and then lead us into a time of hearing from one of our local churches in terms of their decision and their work as they have become a bridge church. So Dwayne, share with us.
I sure will. A lot of conferences, and I know you all know this because I kept getting emails from people asking when we were going to do Lighthouse congregations. And so Bishop Sue and I and Maddie White, who is the Director of Communications for the conference, did some hefty effort and created what we call next steps. And the idea is that as churches disaffiliate, sometimes folks want to remain United Methodist and need a space to take their next best step, or a space just to hold for a while until they discern what God is calling them to do as their next best step. So we created nextsteps.vaumc.org, which is connected to our website, but it's actually it functions as a separate website. And Next Steps is a system of support for folks whose churches have disaffiliated, but who prefer to remain United Methodist, but who aren't quite ready to step into another United Methodist church necessarily. So we've got some discipleship offerings, including links to the General Church Board of Discipleship website that David talked about. We've got an opportunity for people to transfer their membership to the general role of the United Methodist Church, which is a fairly obscure little line in paragraph 2549 of the discipline that allows people to transfer to the general role as a holding place. It was intended particularly for new church starts before they charter, but a lot of conferences, including Virginia, are offering it as a place for people to settle, because one thing we're learning is that people sometimes feel very hesitant to connect with the new United Methodist Church immediately, because they're afraid that the church might disaffiliate, or they're just not ready to make a commitment. And so they just want somewhere to hold their membership until they can find whatever congregation suits them best next. So that's an option. And one of the big pieces of this is what we call bridge churches. And bridge churches are churches that provide a system of support for those folks whose churches have disaffiliated. It's not a place for them to transfer their membership necessarily. It's not a place for them to attend worship or to connect. It's simply a church that says, we want to support you according to the ways you need support. And so it's really driven by the folks who need support. And these are churches, we've got 11 or 12, I think, right now, that have voted to provide a system of support as a bridge between disaffiliation and whatever's next for these folks. And actually, St. Luke's United Methodist Church in the Mountain View District was the very first bridge church in the conference. And we are fortunate to have several laity from St. Luke's here to share with us. We have Lisa Thomason, Jacob Thomason, and Courtney Eggleston. And their pastor, Timothy Barth, was fast on the draw and applied almost immediately. And we are so grateful that you all have stepped up, and you were the very first bridge church on the map.
There you go. Yes, great. Can you hear us?
We can.
Okay, Courtney.
So the first thing that we wanted to talk about was why it was important to St. Luke's to become a bridge church. We are in the Mountain View District, and we're in Danville, Virginia, which for many is the church capital of Virginia. We have many churches, but as the disaffiliation process began, we were noticing that our neighbor United Methodist churches were disaffiliating, or they were making hard decisions about what they should do next. And while there was conversation about the process and what it would mean, St. Luke's knew that they were not disaffiliating. We were going to stay United Methodist. But we also know from the conversations in our own church that many people are hurt. They heard words said that really it may have hurt them as a parent, their family, their neighbors, and it just wasn't a good feeling. And I think we all know that there's been some ugliness in regards to disaffiliating. But we're a church that's going to stay United Methodist. And we're also a church that has the space. We have the space available for folks to come on Sunday and meet in our smaller chapel or our fellowship hall as a group from a previous church. We have the space for them to come in and worship with us. They're not going to bump anyone out of a pew. We're definitely going to welcome them with open arms. We have an active and thriving youth and children's department where we're happy to have any youth that want to come, whether they're going to come to church on Sunday morning or not. We offer many different social opportunities, different Bible studies. We have an active choir, and right now, if you come to St. Luke's on Sunday, you don't even have to be part of the choir. You just show up early and you can sing with us. But we wanted to open those doors and say, we're here, and you can either come with us, and just worship with us and hold a place here until you're no longer hurting, or hey, you can have a meeting. Everyone's on board with being a bridge church. Pastor Tim would be happy to speak with anyone if they needed to. It's just so important to let the community know that while everyone else may no longer be United Methodist, if that is what is in your heart, we are still here for you. And we look forward to all of our visitors. And we've had many. It is working.
We have had many. And we're also seeing not only people coming in from other Methodist churches, but also other denominations. It's nice to see. We have lots of visitors every Sunday, and they're all welcome, and we do look to plug them into other areas. I was asked to sort of talk about why are we remaining United Methodist? And the first thing that comes to mind for me is, well, why would we not? This is who we are. This is the foundation of all of our bringing up in our teachings, and this is who we are. And I believe that we as United Methodists are far better together than we would ever be as individual congregations. Look at the big church at what goes on with the UMCOR. Look how we're able to go out into other countries even and to help. Look within Virginia, within the districts, at the relief programs that we have done. We in the Danville area suffered tremendous loss with Hurricane Michael, and we could not have done what the district came in and did. And so there again, we are better together. We don't always all agree as a congregation, but we have come to the point that we know that we can agree to disagree, and that we can still do ministries together, that we can reach out to our communities and serve those people and be the hands and feet of Christ. And we can do that, be it, you think exactly as I do, or you and I totally disagree on a subject. But what we don't disagree on is that we are disciples and that we are called to go out. So we say as Methodists that we have open hearts, open minds, and open doors. And that is what we want to do. We want to help everyone understand that the grace of God is not only for us as individuals, but for everyone. And we want to be a place that you can come and receive healing, and that you are welcomed and loved.
And so going right off of that, I was asked to speak a little bit about where I see the future of the denomination heading. And it's pretty much summed up in everything that's already been said, but at a broader level, right? We all are going through our own healing process as this divide has been eating away at us all to a degree. And it starts with allowing a space for grace to work within everyone who has been affected by that situation, and learning those skills, taking the time to really make sure that you're in, and then going out, taking that gift to the world. Again, as has already been said, we've been seeing a lot of people who have come through the doors who weren't involved at all in a United Methodist congregation prior, but who really find something valuable in that work that we're doing, in the fact that we are committed to a healing vision, and especially that we're committed to a vision of grace. Grace, of course, for any Methodist is the key word. It is the defining tenet. I think if we had to sum up Wesleyan theology in one word, grace would be a great one. And it's the offer of grace that we can provide to others, that we can cultivate in our own congregations, but also extend, that really I think will be a defining characteristic of our denomination. we do have to choose that. We all have to be cognizant and we have to be set on doing so. But I really do think that, especially with a bridge church model in place, with congregations taking on that kind of a role, even if they aren't officially on the map, quite literally, that we are set up very well to do that, to be a church whose name becomes associated with healing and grace everywhere throughout society and worldwide.
I don't want to cut you off. You all are speaking so well and so beautifully from your hearts, and I appreciate that so much. But I'm going to ask in particular, Jacob, if you're open to a question.
Sure.
Because I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I understand that you are one of our young adults in the conference who has made a decision in this particular time in the life of the church to go to seminary.
That's correct, Eastern Mennonite.
Eastern Mennonite. So tell us a little bit about your call, and like I said, especially now, you just talked about this healing and grace and this opportunity we have to be a church that provides that for the world. So with what you're comfortable with and sharing with 418 people online, I think that's a part of the story of answering God's call in our life when we are in the midst of this place where there's nothing but questions right now.
I'll do what I can among 418 siblings and Christ. Always good company. For me, it's always been a question in the back of my head: was I actually being called to a ministry spot or sort of a ministry among laity? And over time, even as I was running away from it, even as I went as a teenager through periods of not attending church at all, I kept running into people who said, there is something that you have to offer the church. And most of those people, to be honest with you, are not churchgoers. A lot of friends that I have had over the years who have not been involved in church have even said, I think that you would have something to offer as a minister, which is wild to me. But honestly, in the last few years, the biggest deterrent for me entering seminary was I knew that a split was on the way. I knew that everyone was, there was trouble in the water. It was palpable. And one day I kind of just decided in prayer, maybe that's exactly the right time to go. If I have been benefiting from that message of grace, if I have been benefiting from the healing work of the Holy Spirit, and that's something that I seem to be able to communicate to others, this is the time that I need to be in. There's always a need for ministers, but I think there's especially a need when so many people are hurt and hurting, and when there is such a healing movement that I see coming on the way, and I would love to be a part of it.
Thank you. Thank you. Personally, I've been living with the words from Esther for quite a long time now, and this time in the life of the United Methodist Church for just such a time as this. And so, Jacob, I truly believe you've been called for just such a time as this in your way of speaking. So thank you for sharing that story with us. Courtney, Lisa, and Jacob, thank you so much. Is there anything else you would like to add before we just express our appreciation again for all of you all?
No, I would just say if any of your churches are thinking about being a bridge church, to step out in faith and to take those steps and to do that, to be that place for people that are hurting.
Thank you. Thank you. And again, thanks to the three of you. Thanks to Reverend Tim Bart for helping to coordinate everything for us. And we appreciate you all so very much. And as a child of the Danville district, now the Mountain View district, I especially appreciate St. Luke's being the first to come out as a bridge church. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, we've put the links in the chat for the part of the website that talks about next steps in bridge churches, and we would encourage you all to look there for the information about those two, but also for just the discipleship information that's available there, which would be great for any of our local churches. Also want to remind you of the wonderful resources we have through the hashtag BUMC campaign. You might remember that Maddie White, through the communications office, sent out an email a little while back asking for stories from local churches that are using the hashtag BUMC campaign resources. And initially, we got back a lot of responses from folks saying they were using the social media graphics, they were using the banners, they had even bought the t-shirts. We got a few responses from folks saying they were using the sermon messages and the planning resources that were there. But we didn't have a lot of response from churches that were using the materials in other ways. So we put out a second request, and we did hear from a number of churches that are using the materials for new member orientation classes. Those materials are a tremendous way to focus on our core values as United Methodists. The foundational statement of all those resources, if you're not familiar with it, is this: the United Methodist Church is founded on a Wesleyan theology of grace, anchored in Scripture, and based in the life and teachings of Jesus Christ and the continuing movement of the Holy Spirit. So using that to help prepare new members to be part of our families of faith is a wonderful thing to do. We also had one church in particular that shared with us that they had done neighborhood connection groups last summer and used those resources for conversation in those connection groups. And that this spring, they had used Bishop Thomas Bickerton's materials from the initial Reclaim, Revive, Renew video that he did as his midterm Council of Bishops President State of the Church address. But they had used that in the discussion guide for their 3-week study. Bishop Bickerton's video, along with a study guide, are available on the same website where you can find the hashtag BUMC resources. And they would be great to use as a summer series for sermons. That's hard to say on Sunday afternoon, but could be used in many, many other ways too. So we don't want you to forget that those resources are available, and they are available on the resourceumc.org website, which Dwayne has put in the chat as well. We'll send out all of these links along with the link to David's slides and some follow-up later on this week so that you all can have that. As we come to a close, I just want to share a few other reminders with us all. If you've been to annual conference before, you know where you can probably find your district lay leaders. But for those of you all who are new, I just want to share with you that the district lay leaders will be sitting up toward the stage on the floor in the front with the district superintendent. So if you need to find them, that's where they will be. I want to remind you that we have a laity heart-to-heart session that will be on Thursday morning from 8:30 to 9:30 before the official start of the annual conference session. We'll be in Berglund Hall, which is the underground connection between the Berglund Coliseum side and the Performing Arts Center side on the Berglund Center campus. We're going to have a series of folks to share a little witness, sort of like what we heard from the St. Luke's team today, and then offer a time of conversation around tables. So feel free to come and join us and be a part of that conversation. To that end, we will finish that laity heart-to-heart at 9:30 or as close to it as we can, because the opening call to order for annual conference is at 10 o'clock on Thursday morning. And we open with worship this year, worship and Holy Communion. So we want to make sure that we are all in place to be able to celebrate that worship service together. I also want to extend the invitation to you for the Mission Social on Thursday evening, which is the only evening official gathering during our time together in Roanoke. This is an opportunity starting at 7:30 on Thursday night to meet and talk with representatives from our conference relationship partners, from other mission organizations, boards, and agencies. So take the opportunity and advantage to come in and talk with folks so that your local church may find new avenues for mission and outreach, or may be able to enhance the work that we're already doing in our community. So those are enough announcements for us. I will remind you again of the videos if you haven't watched them, or you need to remind yourself of our conference rules and Robert's Rules of Order, along with the Berglund Center, because there is a short piece there that just shows you the Berglund Center if you haven't been there before, so that you won't feel so lost when you drive in the parking lot. If you have other questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me by email or to check the conference website. Now, as we do close, we have a special closing that we want to share with you. I am inviting Shirley Kaufman and Warren Harper to join their voices with mine in this ending. As your current and former conference lay leaders, we saw the need to speak to where we are and to where our denomination is, and to express our hope for the future. So as we close today, we want to share a letter with you that comes from our heart and from our love for the United Methodist Church. The letter will go out tomorrow to the conference. So you will have a physical copy of it if you would like to share it with others. But we want to share these words with you today as we close this laity session, and hope that you do hear that it is a letter to you from the three of us, from our hearts. And so, Shirley, I will ask if you will start for us.
Dear friends across the Virginia Annual Conference, as we enter into the season after Pentecost, or ordinary time, we recognize that we are in anything but an ordinary time in the life of our beloved denomination. Yet, our call has not changed. In fact, we believe that being a disciple, a follower of Jesus, demands even more of us today than ever before. The call of the laos, the Greek word meaning the whole people of God, has not changed. The call to be in ministry is not reserved for the clergy. It is for all who want to follow the path of becoming and living as disciples of Jesus Christ. This call is not easy to carry, especially in a time like now, with so many unanswered questions. This call requires that we build and nurture authentic relationships with one another, even when we disagree. As your current and former conference lay leaders, we are committed to the future of the United Methodist Church. Our connection, our relationships with one another around the globe, based upon our love of Jesus, is important in each of our lives. We did not come to this United Methodist connection by the same paths. We are a mix of a lifelong, in that regard, we're not any different from our local congregations. We're a mix of a lifelong Virginia United Methodist, baptized and confirmed in a small church of the Mountain View District, a cradle Methodist from a large church in New Jersey, and a child of a Tennessee Southern Baptist upbringing. Despite all that we've seen and experienced, we are United Methodist and will #BUMC. Why?
Because our neighbors, our communities, and our world need what we as United Methodists offer: an understanding of God's grace, working in and through us as we live out our faith in the world. We can model for the rest of the world a way of being followers of Jesus who might not agree on every question, but can worship and grow through our relationships with one another. We have a distinctive way of studying and understanding Scripture that gives us room for differences of opinion and understandings, allowing us to continue our own spiritual growth and learning. We celebrate this freedom, but agree that we are bound by the articles of religion as set forth in the United Methodist Book of Discipline. We are a people who know that new expressions of church are needed to meet new people where they are. We may have forgotten that at times, as we have grown comfortable in our pews, but our heritage is a reminder that the world is still our parish. We are not afraid to take the church outside the walls of the building to meet the needs of the community. None of us, laity or clergy, knows exactly what to do right now. We feel lost. Church properties that hold special places in our personal faith stories are leaving the denomination. People we hold dear have made decisions that new church homes are best for them. We are grieving the loss of church buildings and members, family, and friends. But there comes a point when the mourning must turn to dancing and joy. Now is the time for new beginnings.
Here is what we know we must do. Forgive each other for our failures, our decisions, the harm we have caused one another. Care for and love one another. That commandment doesn't cease if the name on the church building changes. Learn from the children and youth who know what church is without politics and debate. Communities of support and acceptance, doing what Jesus taught us. Our young people have a lot to teach us about being disciples. The months and years ahead will not be easy, but we will learn together. Be permission giving as creative ministry ideas come forward. Our call is to be bold and courageous, especially as we seek the renewal and revitalization of the United Methodist Church. Stop waiting. The time is now. The Holy Spirit is moving. Let's use our gifts and callings now to return to our roots. Be vile, as John Wesley would say, and go share the good news from the storefronts, in the parks, through the streets, and up on the rooftops. We can't walk out the door on Sunday and forget who we are called to be. Something happened for each one of us in our church lives that changed us, that transformed us, led us to be United Methodist. For the three of us, we recognize it was the relationship built locally and globally through our United Methodist connection that shaped our lives, teaching us how to be like Jesus as we work to bring about God's kingdom in the world. We honor our doctrine and heritage, the core values that connect the people of the United Methodist Church. We see the beauty of our traditions and rituals. We seek to live into the fullness of all our baptisms call us to be. We embrace the future of the United Methodist Church. The world desperately needs us all to do that now more than ever. So in Christ's service, Martha Stokes, Conference Lay Leader, 2020 to present.
Warren Harper, Conference Lay Leader, 2012 to 2020.
Shirley Kaufman, Conference Lay Leader, 2006 to 2012.
We all look forward to seeing you soon in Roanoke. What a joyous gathering it will be. Until then, go in peace to love and to serve as the hands, feet, and heart of Jesus, making disciples and transforming the world as we seek to build God's kingdom here on earth. I look forward to singing and Are We Yet Alive with you on Thursday morning with all the joy and gusto that we can sing with as United Methodist. Thank you for joining us. Share the recording link with others in your congregation. And thank you for your leadership in your local church and in the annual conference. Have a good afternoon and evening. See you on Thursday.
Thank you, Martha.